Most people think discipline, courage, and happiness live in separate rooms of human experience. We chase discipline through strict routines and willpower. We search for courage by facing our fears. We pursue happiness through comfort and pleasure. The ancient samurai saw things differently. For them, these three qualities were not separate goals but different versions of the same way of living. When you understood one deeply, the others followed naturally. Miyamoto Musashi spent the first half of his life as a wandering warrior, fighting over 60 duels and winning every single one. People who met him during those years described him as rough, aggressive, and obsessed with victory. He seemed to show courage and discipline, but showed little sign of happiness or peace. Then something changed. Musashi went away to mountain caves for years of practice alone. When he came back to write the Book of Five Rings in his final years, his teaching had changed completely. He wrote that the way of the warrior is found not in constant fighting, but in constant improvement of the self. The discipline that once served only combat had become a path to inner peace. This change revealed something important about how the samurai understood these qualities. They had a complete system for developing all three, a code called Bushido, which means the way of the warrior. This was not just a set of rules for battle. It was a complete guide for living that touched every part of human character. Bushido had 7 main principles that, when practiced together, naturally created discipline without burning out, courage without being reckless, and happiness without chasing pleasure. These 7 principles were Gi, which means doing what is right, Yu, which means courage, Jin, which means kindness and caring for others, Rei, which means respect, Makoto, which means honesty and being real, Meiyo, which means honor, and Chugi, which means loyalty. Each principle worked as both a single strength and as part of a larger system where each quality helped and balanced the others. Understanding how these principles work together gives us a practical map for developing the discipline, courage, and happiness that seems so hard to find in modern life. The first principle, Gi, forms the base of everything else. Gi means doing what is right simply because it is right, no matter what it costs you or what you gain from it. This sounds simple but proves very hard in real life. We live in a world that constantly asks us to think about advantages. Should I help this person? What will I get from it? Should I tell the truth here? What might I lose? Should I take this action? How will others judge me? Gi cuts through all of this thinking with a single clear standard. What is the right thing to do in this situation? Then do that. The samurai practiced Gi through daily decisions that most people would consider small. If you found money on the ground, you searched for its owner. If you saw someone being treated unfairly, you spoke up no matter who was involved. If you made a promise, you kept it even when things changed and keeping it became difficult. These small acts of doing right were not separate from their warrior training. A person who could not be trusted in small matters could not be trusted when lives depended on their decisions. This connects directly to discipline in a way most people miss. Real discipline is not about forcing yourself to do hard things through willpower alone. That approach tires you out eventually. Real discipline flows from having clear principles that guide your decisions without thinking. When you commit to Gi, to doing what is right, no matter how you feel, many daily struggles disappear. You do not need to argue with yourself about whether to exercise today. You promise to take care of your health, so you exercise. You do not waste energy deciding whether to study or scroll social media. You know what the right action is, so you take it. This removes the decision tiredness that drains most people's discipline. The second principle, Yu, talks about courage directly. But the samurai understanding of courage went deeper than most modern ideas. Yu did not mean feeling fearless. Every warrior felt fear before battle. The difference between a coward and a brave person was not what they felt, but what they did with that feeling. Tsunetomo wrote in Hagakure that the way of the samurai is found in death. This shocking phrase did not mean looking for death without thinking. It meant accepting death as certain to happen, which strangely freed warriors to act bravely in life. When you truly accept that your time is limited and death is certain, your relationship with fear changes completely. Most fear comes from imagining future pain or loss. But if you've already accepted the worst possible thing that could happen, what is left to fear? This daily thinking about death was not sad depression. It was practical preparation that made courage easier to reach. Modern psychology confirms this ancient wisdom. Studies show that people who regularly think about their death make braver decisions, waste less time on unimportant matters, and report higher life satisfaction. You also taught that courage appears in daily life more often than in big dramatic moments. Speaking up when everyone else stays silent takes courage. Admitting you were wrong takes courage. Starting a difficult project when you might fail takes courage. Ending a relationship that no longer helps either person takes courage. The samurai trained courage not by looking for battles but by practicing small acts of bravery every day. Each time you move toward discomfort instead of away from it, you strengthen the courage muscle. This daily practice means that when truly difficult moments arrive, courage has become your normal response rather than something you must gather through huge effort. The third principle, Jin, adds a surprising element that many people do not connect with warriors. Jin means kindness, caring for others, and being gentle. This might seem opposite. How can warriors dedicated to fighting skill also show caring? The samurai understood something important. Strength without caring becomes cruelty. Courage without kindness becomes meanness. A true warrior needed both the ability to take life when necessary and the wisdom to save it whenever possible. Jin showed up in how samurai treated people with less power. A warrior who was rude to servants or cruel to animals was considered unworthy no matter how good they were at fighting. When you have the ability to hurt someone without results, how you treat them shows who you really are. The samurai grew Jin by looking for chances to help others, especially those who could never pay them back. This practice kept their power in service to something larger than themselves. This principle connects to happiness in a direct way that modern research keeps confirming. Studies always show that acts of kindness and helping others increase personal happiness more reliably than selfish pleasures. When you practice Jin, when you regularly look for ways to make life better for people around you, you create a positive circle. Your actions create good in the world, which makes you feel more connected to others, which makes you happier, which gives you more energy to continue acting with caring. The samurai found this truth centuries before scientists could measure it. Happiness comes not from taking but from giving. The fourth principle, Rei, means respect and proper behavior toward others. This went beyond basic politeness into a complete understanding of human worth. Every person deserved respect simply by being human, no matter their social position, wealth, or relationship to you. The formal bowing that Japanese culture became famous for started in samurai training. These actions were not empty rituals. They were physical ways to show genuine respect, constant reminders that other people matter. Rei also included self-respect, which meant keeping dignity even in difficult times. A samurai who lost everything would still carry themselves with calm strength. This was not about being proud or pretending problems did not exist. It was about refusing to let outside things control your inside state. You controlled your behavior, your speech, and your bearing no matter what happened around you. This practice created incredible mental strength. When you commit to treating yourself and others with steady respect, you build an identity that hard times cannot shake. This connects to both discipline and happiness. Discipline becomes easier when you respect yourself enough to honor your promises. If you truly respected yourself, would you break promises you made to yourself? Would you waste your limited time on things that do not matter? Self-respect naturally creates better behavior without the need for harsh self-criticism. And respect for others creates better relationships, which are one of the most reliable sources of lasting happiness. The samurai understood that respect was not weakness or giving in. It was a form of strength that made everything else in life work better. The fifth principle, Makoto, talks about honesty and being real. This went far beyond not telling lies. Makoto meant complete matching between your inner thoughts and outer words. What you said matched what you thought. What you promised matched what you planned to deliver. Your public self matched your private self. This total honesty created a kind of mental simplicity that most people never experience. Think about how much energy most people spend managing different versions of themselves. The work self, the family self, the friend self, the online self. Each version needs care and memory. You have to remember what you told different people, what image you are showing in different places, which parts of yourself to show and which to hide. This constant management tires you out. The samurai practicing Makoto removed this drain entirely. They had one self, shown honestly in all situations. This did not mean being rude or sharing every thought. It meant that what they chose to express was genuine. This principle changes discipline in a quiet but powerful way. When you commit to complete honesty, you can no longer lie to yourself about your actions. You cannot pretend you will start tomorrow when you mean you are avoiding it today. You cannot claim you do not have time when you mean it is not a priority. This self-honesty removes the mental fog that ruins most people's discipline. You see your choices and behavior clearly, which makes changing them much simpler. Makoto also creates deeper happiness by removing the worry that comes from keeping up false versions of yourself. When you have nothing to hide and nothing to maintain, you can relax into simply being who you are. The sixth principle, Meiyo, means honor or reputation, but not in the shallow sense of what others think of you. Meiyo was about living in a way that you could respect yourself for, no matter whether anyone else knew about it. Your honor was the built-up weight of all your choices and actions, known and unknown. The samurai had a saying that a warrior's honor was more valuable than their life. This sounds extreme until you understand what it really meant. They were saying that who you are matters more than how long you live. This principle created interesting practical effects. When honor mattered more than life, many common fears lost their power. Fear of embarrassment could not stop you from doing the right thing because temporary embarrassment could not damage true honor. Fear of failure could not freeze you because attempting something difficult and failing with honor was better than succeeding at something unimportant. Fear of criticism could not silence you because you judged yourself by your principles, not by others' opinions. This mindset created extraordinary freedom of action. Meiyo connects to all three qualities we're exploring. It creates discipline by giving you a standard that goes beyond momentary feelings. You act according to your honor no matter whether you feel motivated. It creates courage by making living well more important than living safely. And it creates happiness through what psychologists call inner motivation. When your satisfaction comes from living according to your own standards, rather than meeting outside expectations, you develop a stable source of contentment that hard times cannot easily disturb. The seventh principle, Chugi, means loyalty and devotion. For the samurai, this mainly meant loyalty to their lord and their land. Modern life does not have the same old Japanese structure, but the principle of Chugi still applies in a deeper way. It means having commitments that you place above your personal convenience or comfort. These might be loyalty to your family, devotion to your craft, commitment to your community, or dedication to a cause larger than yourself. The specific target of loyalty matters less than having something you are willing to serve faithfully over time. Chugi was never blind following of orders. The samurai had a concept of loyal speaking up, which meant that true loyalty sometimes required disagreeing with those you served when they were making mistakes. A yes person who never questioned their Lord was not truly loyal because they allowed their Lord to make errors without guidance. Real loyalty meant caring enough about someone or something to tell difficult truths and take difficult actions when necessary. This principle adds important stability to discipline, courage, and happiness. Discipline without loyalty to something larger often falls apart into selfish achievement that brings no real satisfaction. Courage without loyalty can become recklessness or rebellion without purpose. Happiness without loyalty remains shallow and self-centered. When you commit yourself to serving something beyond your immediate desires, whether that is your family, your work, your community, or your principles, you gain a source of meaning that keeps you going through difficult periods. Research on life satisfaction always shows that people with strong commitments to causes or communities larger than themselves report higher happiness and lower rates of depression. These 7 principles of Bushido form a complete system. Gi gives you clarity about right action. Yu gives you the courage to take that action despite fear. Jin ensures your power serves others rather than just yourself. Rei maintains dignity in all interactions. Makoto removes the tiredness of keeping up false versions of yourself. Meiyo creates a standard of behavior that goes beyond outside validation. And Chugi gives you commitments that provide lasting meaning. Together, they naturally produce the discipline, courage, and happiness that seems so difficult when we try to develop them separately. The practical application of all this starts with one simple commitment. Choose one of these 7 principles to focus on this week. Not all 7 at once, which would overwhelm you. Just one. If you choose G, look for moments throughout each day when you can do the right thing, no matter the convenience. If you choose Jin, look for opportunities to help others who cannot pay you back. If you choose Makoto, practice expressing yourself honestly in situations where you would normally hold back or exaggerate. Start small and specific rather than trying to change everything at once. As you practice one principle, you will notice it naturally supports the others. When you act with Gi, doing what is right, you build Meiyo, honor in your own eyes. When you practice Jin, caring toward others, it becomes easier to practice Rei, respect. When you commit to Makoto, honesty, you find you need less courage because you have less to hide and defend. The system works together, each part strengthening the rest. One final insight from Samurai teaching ties all of this together. Tsunetomo wrote that the way of the samurai is found in the immediate moment. Not in grand plans for the future or deep analysis of the past, but in how you handle right now, this single moment. Discipline is what you do right now when no one is watching. Courage is how you respond right now when fear appears. Happiness is what you experience right now when you are fully present and living according to your principles. The Bushido Code provides the guide, but you build your life through what you do in each specific moment as it arrives. These ancient warriors faced challenges we can barely imagine. Daily threat of death, rigid social codes, and constant testing of their abilities. Yet, they developed a way of living that created discipline without burning out, courage without being reckless, and happiness without chasing pleasure. Their methods work today not because modern life is the same as old Japan, but because human nature has not changed. We still struggle with the same basic challenges of doing what matters despite not feeling like it, moving forward despite being scared, and finding contentment despite difficult times. The 7 principles of Bushido offer proven solutions to these timeless problems, not as abstract philosophy but as practical daily practices that anyone can begin applying immediately. Thank you for watching.